arguably they're more deeply steeped in the kind of philosophy of the consumer than anyone. The fundamental message is shush, little people. Shush, just go shopping. I think there's something quite big going on in society right now, and I think the creative industries need to respond to that. I mean, the way I describe it, I think there's really something quite massive. I think we're in a big shift in what the role of people in society is. I think maybe the way I'd describe it is we started off like back at the beginning of the 20th century, say, as kind of subjects, as just like getting what we were given, and there wasn't really much role for creativity back then. And then consumerism kind of comes in, and this idea of people as consumers, and creativity absolutely has a role there. Commercial creativity really kind of comes into being. But then right now, I think that era of the consumer is starting to kind of eat itself, and the problems of the idea of the consumer are becoming really manifest. And what's emerging is an idea that people can actually have more agency than just buying stuff, and that there's more to life than just owning things, and as a result, and people can be participants actually in what society's all about. And the way I sort of sum it up is like subjects we got what we were given, consumers we had kind of freedom of choice, but as citizens in this kind of new world that's sort of coming about, we can actually shape the choices, like actually shape them rather than just choose between them.
And what was interesting is you said that creative industry is ill-defined. Do you think creative industry is ill? Do you think it's not fulfilling those those responses?
Yeah, and I think the whole thing is ill, right? I think we've got a load of institutions and structures that are tailored to an era where it's all about how do you flog stuff to people, and the creative industries, like creativity has somehow become instrumental to selling, rather than like surely the idea of creativity is far bigger than that.
Right, we're banging in the middle of a city.
Okay.
A few quick fire questions. Are city bankers worth what they're paid? Yes or no?
No.
Are you worth what you're paid?
Yeah, but that's not hard.
Is Apple worthy of the title of the biggest company in the world?
No. One of the ads that I worked on that never ran, that I was most proud of, was I was working on back in early days, and they gave us a brief to do some advertising on sustainable palm oil, and we proposed an ad that had an image of the Greenpeace Unilever protest with orangutans on the building, and the headline, "This was our wake-up call, this is yours." So it probably have worked, to be fair.
It stood out.
Bit of cut through to that, and the ad that ended up running was what you buy. It was a picture of the rainforest, and what you buy in the supermarket can change the world, which obviously to my kind of consumer sense isn't quite what I was after. And what that ad that ended up running, and I've seen so many like it, Rainforest Alliance Follow the Frog is another big famous one, where the fundamental message is shush, little people. Shush, just go shopping. You don't have a role here. And that makes me sick.
Do you think that's because there are fundamentally less really strong-minded individuals at the heart of big enterprises now? The three that you described, so you've got Virgin with Branson, who's an independent spirit, will do what the hell he likes. You've got Anita Roddick, who essentially was, a super powerful woman at a time when, that wasn't necessarily the case in a boardroom. And you've got Steve Jobs running Apple almost single-handedly. Is that what's missing?
Maybe. I'm always hesitant to pin it down to individuals. And I think we're starting to see some of the equivalents for the next era. And I think one of the reasons why that happened was because the world was kind of ready for something like that to come. You know what? Like, it was a time when things had changed and there was a new story to tell, and it was just waiting for the right storyteller. And I think that's where we are now. And I mean, like one of the aspirations of the new Citizenship Project is to try and in our own small way kind of be a little part of that, be sort of part of kind of creating some of the initiatives that embody that promise.
What industry do you see that coming from? Because I think one thing that always makes
in terms of the big guns.
Well, it always makes me a little bit edgy, because I think that often the industry that's attached to this the most is the new tech industry. So you look at Silicon Valley and the kind of high ideals, and they are people who essentially have been grown up with as Jerry Garcia as a guy who's essentially outlining how brands should behave. Yet when you probe a bit deeper, they're just the same as everyone else, if not worse.
Totally agree. And one of the things I talk about a lot is the sort of collaborative economy thing, and the sort of the golden promise of things like Airbnb. And you're like, but actually, isn't that just trying to operate on exactly the same model and actually treat us all as consumers and kind of and pay as little tax as possible and kind of so. I don't know. I think so. I agree that it's not. I don't think we should look to tech and the West Coast for all the answers. I think arguably they're more deeply steeped in the kind of philosophy of the consumer than anyone. I think it could come from anywhere and is coming from everywhere. Like if you look at the energy sector you were talking about, there's loads of really fascinating stuff going on with community energy, and so OVO in the UK is really interesting what they're doing in community energy. You look at the health service and actually the NHS. There's some really sparky stuff going on in parts of the health service, and you look at politics around the world, and as I was saying, people like Partido and the Open Ministry in Finland and all that's really interesting. So I do see it as a kind of cultural shift that's happening, that's kind of, and it's really, I feel like in my most optimistic moments, I feel like there's this kind of pregnant moment where you're like, it just needs that Steve Jobs or the Anita or the whatever to come in and go, look, this is what this is, people.
Yeah. But do you think that's going to come from within the industry, a push from the creative industry, or from people themselves?
Great question. I think I couldn't guess. Do you know? Honestly, I couldn't guess. I think it could come from anywhere.
I mean, that person could be in all three.
True. There's no reason why not.
If you was to turn into Doctor Who, and this taxi was to turn into the TARDIS, we could take you anywhere in space and time and drop you off there, free of charge. Where would you go and why?
Do you know what? I'd really love to go to Argentina right now, because I think if you had to tell me I had to back one individual to be the sort of the person who's going to make this feel real, this shift I'm talking about, I would say it's Pia Mancini from Partito della Red, and I would love to go and meet her and have dinner with her and kick it around and see whether we could figure out what we should do.